Here is my new gear storage and battery charging closet. It's the ultimate space-saving and battery charging storage solution for YouTubers and content creators. It can be quickly hidden away by closing the closet doors, but I think it looks cool enough to be a nice backdrop for my videos, so I'll probably leave the doors open for the most part. In this video, I'll show you how I made it. I'll also show you the problems I ran into and how I solved them, like how to create enough space behind the panels for all the power sources, how to connect 3 panels of lights and sync them together, how to future-proof it so you can make changes if you want to add to it later, and how you can build this all by yourself. If you're new here, my name's Rob Moore and I'm a freelance video editor and content creator. I make videos and host live streams on helping you level up your own videos and online businesses. If you like this content and want to see more of it, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I also look forward to answering any comments or questions you may have in the comment section below. When deciding on a storage solution for your gear, you first have to identify all the stuff you need to store and where you'd like to store it. What works best for you? In my case, I've set up my office in a spare bedroom, so there's a closet. In fact, there are 2 closets that I can use. It's actually one long closet with 2 sets of doors, and it's not a walk-in closet, it's a fairly standard 24 inches deep. I decided to use the left set of doors as a place to store stuff out of the way, stuff I'll probably always want hidden away. I'm always going to have things that I need, but just don't want out in the open, so this is a perfect place for that stuff. I make most of my videos in this office, and so I put a lot of effort into making sure everything in my shots, my video sets or backdrops all look good. And that means making sure there isn't any clutter. So this first closet is where I can hide stuff away. I installed some IKEA wall shelves, I put an old piece of furniture in there, and also my filing cabinet and a printer I don't use much anymore. If I need to get anything out of sight, I can just put it in here. It's this second closet, the one to the right, more in the middle of the room, that's the focus of this video. I wanted this closet to not just be a storage area for my video gear, but also a battery charging station as well, for all the different kinds of batteries I use for my equipment. I have a ton of wires, clamps, and tools, and I want to be able to find whatever I need quickly. And as far as batteries go, I want them to be charged and ready to go whenever I need them. It's important that I make this closet look good because I want to be able to leave the closet doors open and use it as a cool looking backdrop for my videos and live streams. Building out the closet was a 2-step process, and the first step I did several months ago. And unfortunately, I didn't take any video of this first step. But what I did was I used my old IKEA desk that I had in my last office, a wider but not as long a desk as I currently use, and I cut the desktop to fit in the closet as a raised countertop or bench. I had to cut about 8 inches off the width of the desktop so it would fit, but I was able to use that 8-inch piece as a shelf near the top of the closet for more storage, so it worked out kind of well. These storage bins I got from Amazon fit perfectly. I just have to put some labels on them so I know what's in them. I then had to make a few more cuts to make it fit perfectly, and since I already have power inside my closet, I just had to drill a hole in the bench so I can get access to the power outlet. I then bought this Husky tool storage unit from Home Depot, which fits perfectly inside the closet and under the desktop. This is perfect for keeping all kinds of equipment organized and stored in its own place. I actually knew how tall the unit was before I installed the desktop, as I wanted to be sure I could use the top of the storage unit as another layer of storage. And then the project came to a standstill. I got busy with other things, and the closet basically stayed like this for several months. The bench desktop became a magnet for all my gear, and it didn't take very long before things started to spill out into the open, and the closet bench just became a big cluttered mess, as you can see here. At least I was able to close the closet doors and keep much of the mess out of sight. So now that brings me to last week, when I decided not only to finish building out the closet, but also to record myself doing it for the purposes of making this video. The idea behind the charging wall is to 1. Be a place to store and charge all my batteries, and 2. To get a lot of these batteries and charging hubs up off my desk and onto this wall. To do this, I'm using the metal pegboard system from Wall Control. I got this 3-panel kit from Amazon that came with a lot of the things I needed. A couple of shelves, some hanging bins, and a bunch of different sized hooks. I've put links to everything I use down in the description below. I want to have all my battery chargers attached to the front of the pegboard, with any power bricks or power sources hidden behind the pegboard, and the wires that connect them would go through the pegboard. This will result in a much cleaner look with all charging wires and power cords hidden. In order to have enough space between the back of the pegboard and the wall, I had to use standoff mounts, which I also got from Amazon. The ones I used were a little over 2 inches long, and I screwed them directly into the back of my closet using a stud finder to make sure I screwed them into studs. One problem I had with the standoff screws was the length of the screw that was supposed to attach the metal pegboard to the standoff. It wasn't long enough. So I took one to my local hardware store and got longer screws, or in my case, bolts, making sure that the size and thread count were a match. That's when I ran into another problem. The bolts were too thick and wouldn't pass through the backside of the panel. So I used a step drill bit to drill those holes out and make them larger. That worked perfectly, so I drilled out all 6 holes on each panel, 18 holes in total. The panels are 16 inches wide by 32 inches tall, so 3 of them together are 48 inches wide by 32 inches tall. It just so happens that the studs behind my drywall are every 16 inches, which I think is pretty standard. So I was hopeful I could just attach these directly into the studs and not have to worry about using wall hangers, which would not have been very strong. If the studs weren't in the right place, then I would have had to attach horizontal pieces of wood to the studs first, and then attach the pegboards to those. But I didn't have to do that. The position of my studs, luckily, were in a good spot for my 3-panel setup. I drilled pilot holes for the standoff mounts, then used regular wood screws to attach them to my studs. Each panel has 6 attaching points, and so I installed 6 standoff mounts for each one, 18 in total, although I didn't end up using all of them. More on that later. Once all the standoff mounts were in place, I temporarily installed the panels to make sure everything fit properly. Once I knew everything fit, I removed the panels to get ready for the next step. Before installing the panels, I had to attach everything that was to be hidden behind them to the back of the panels. But before doing that, I first had to have a good idea of how I wanted to lay everything out on the panels. With 3 panels, I decided that to keep the install as simple as possible, I would put most charging equipment on one of the panels, and then I'd use the other 2 panels for storing equipment on shelves, in bins, or hanging from hooks. So I cleared away a large area of my office, laid the panels down flat on the floor, and started placing everything I wanted on the panels. After much debate with myself, I decided that the middle panel would be where all my powered chargers would go. I'd need to power the right panel too, as that's where I plan to have shelves to place battery packs that I don't want to fix to the panels with Velcro, but rather just plug in and sit on the shelves or hang from hooks. For example, my drone battery charging hub. I always take the entire hub with all 3 batteries with me when I'm using the drone, so it makes sense to just have a shelf for it so I can quickly unplug it and take it with me when I need to. Same with the GoPro battery charger and the Hollyland wireless microphone charger. They can just sit on a shelf on the right panel and plug in from there. And the drone's remote and the DJI Osmo gimbal I have for my phone can both hang from hooks on the wall panel, and they both need charging as well. Once I had my layout set, I used industrial strength Velcro to attach the chargers to the panel. I bought a 10-foot roll from Amazon. That way I could cut the strips to the exact size I needed for each charger. Once I had the chargers in place, I identified where the charging wires had to go through the panel, and then I used a screwdriver to expand the slots so that I could pass the small end of the wire through. This worked great for all but one item. The 3-outlet power strip I wanted at the top did not have a detachable power cord, so I had to cut a larger hole in the panel so the plug would pass through. With all the wires passed through, it was time to flip the panel over and work on the backside, the hidden part. The back of the panel is where everything gets plugged in. All of the battery chargers I mounted on the front of the panel plug in with a regular USB-A connector. There are 2 dual chargers for my Sony camera batteries, 2 single chargers and 1 dual charger for my NPF 550 and NPF 750 batteries, These are used for certain lights and my camera slider, and a Power Owl charger for my rechargeable AA and AAA batteries. I can plug all 6 of those chargers into this 6-port USB charging station by Topfork that I actually got from Amazon over a year ago, so I know it works well. Then, the charging station plugs into this low-profile power strip, and I can run its power to my outlet behind the panels. I attached the USB charging hub and the power strip to the back of the panel using the same industrial-strength Velcro I used on the front, and then I tidied up all the cables with wire ties. Even though I attached the power strip to the back of the second panel, I also needed to get power to the right panel where I wanted to have shelves for my drone, GoPro, and microphone batteries, and I therefore need charging wires for those. These wires would just stick out through the panel so I could plug the equipment in and just sit them on a shelf. Because the drone battery charging hub can handle much more power for faster charging, I got a more powerful 240-watt 8-port USB-C charging hub to go on the back of the right panel. To power it, I needed to run the power cable over to the middle panel and leave enough slack in the cable so I could still put one panel up at a time. This was a little tricky, but I was still able to do it by myself. Since I maxed out the first 6-port hub with my battery chargers in the middle panel, I needed another one because I still wanted to add lights behind the panels. The second 6-port hub would be for the lights and for the 3 additional USB chargers that I wanted to wire over to a shelf on the left panel for storing and charging some small power bank chargers I had. I decided to install this hub on the back of the middle panel as well, next to the first one. I ran the 3 additional charging wires through the panel so they'd be near a shelf on the left panel. I then installed strip lights to the back of all 3 panels. The ones I got were generic RGBIC strip lights, and the shortest length I could get was 10 feet, so I got 3 of them, one for each panel. I've got a link to these in the description below, but these lights come with an app so that I can sync them all together and turn them all on or all off from my phone. Each light set has its own USB power connector, which I ran over to the middle panel, the second 6-port charging hub, leaving enough slack between the panels so they could be removed one at a time without damaging anything. After some quick tests to make sure everything worked and tidying up all the wires, it was time to attach the panels to the walls one at a time, being careful not to hook any of the wires running between the panels. Since I kept most of the charging equipment behind the middle panel, I only had to worry about one USB wire coming from the left panel for the left lights, and from the right panel, I had one USB wire coming to the middle panel for the right lights, and one power cord coming from the 240-watt charging hub. And from the middle panel, I had the main power strip power cord running behind the right panel and down through my bench top to the power outlet below, which powered everything up. When attaching the panels to the walls with the standoff mounts, I realized that the replacement longer bolts I got from the hardware store, I didn't leave enough space between the panels to allow bolts from different panels to go side by side. The easiest fix for this for me was to not use every bolt. I didn't want to have to take the standoff mounts out and re-drill new holes, but just keep that in mind if you're building this. Try to leave a little space between each panel to allow large-headed bolts to screw in beside each other. I'm calling this my gear storage charging closet, and I think it turned out really well. I added a few more accessories and charging items that I hadn't initially planned for, like 2 additional shelves, one for my battery packs and one for my drone. I added 2 more USB-C charging wires under my top shelf so I could plug in my Aperture MC lights. They're magnetic, so can just stick to the underside of the shelf, plugged in, and always be charged whenever I need them. Right now I have one of these lights on a small rig magic arm attached to my shelf, giving light to the top of my bench, and I can keep it plugged in here so it's always fully charged as well. I also got a 10-pack of small bins that hang off of pegboard hooks for extra storage of smaller things like camera and light connectors, Velcro straps, remotes, and other things. The gear storage charging closet is a functional place to keep all my equipment and batteries and keep them charged. Everything has its own place, and because I can move the hooks and shelves around, I can easily make changes to the layout if and when I want. It also doubles as a cool backdrop for when I'm making videos or doing live streams. And if things ever do start getting a little untidy, I can simply close the doors. I didn't focus very much on the storage aspect of the closet, but really quick, I have 6 storage bins on the 8-inch shelf I put above the charging wall, several more storage bins on the main shelf above that, and below the bench in the Husky tool storage unit, I organized all the smaller things I had laying around in the top drawer, more equipment, wires, and some GoPro accessories in the next drawer, extra HDMI wires and other Sony camera accessories in the third deeper drawer, and in the doors below, some other miscellaneous things along with my laptop bag. All I have left to do is put labels on all my bins so I know what's in each one of them, but I'll do that another day. I'm super happy the way my gear storage charging closet turned out, and I guess the challenge now is to try to keep it as neat and tidy as it looks right now. I hope you found this video helpful and that it inspires you to get organized and perhaps build something similar. If you have any questions about any of this, please leave a comment below and I'll respond. I included a parts list of everything I used in this build in the description below, and they are, in fact, Amazon affiliate links. If you're planning to build your own charging wall, I'd really appreciate it if you clicked my affiliate links, as I'll earn a small commission from Amazon. Although it doesn't cost you anything, it does help to support my channel and allows me to make more videos like this. So thank you. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this one. I make videos and host live streams on helping you level up your videos and running a home-based, internet-based business. If there's anything I haven't covered yet that you'd like to learn more about, leave a comment below and let me know. I'm Rob the Maritimer, and I'll see you next time.